Hello, welcome back. It's Space Moose here, bringing you another Magic the Gathering Arena video. Today we're going to be looking at the Boros cycling deck again, and showing off some matches in the best of one arena. A good intro for players who do not have a sideboard built yet, and a way to earn some packs and some experience going in. So let's jump into the first match. Keep a hand with 3 lands in it. And we go on, play our mountain, and pass the turn over to the opponent, who plays the swamp. Seeing a discard card, Spectre Shriek, come out of them, we can pretty much determine that they're likely playing a mono black and or black green deck, usually, is what you see on the ladder for people who play this kind of card. Now this was a warm-up game. It's an unranked match just to get the juices going before we head into the ladder itself. Play out our Draenith Healer. Pass it to the opponent. Have them play. So the whole point of this deck is to play out our cycling cards, gaining advantage off of them and the abilities from our creatures. If you are not familiar with this deck, I put out a deck tech on it last week. There will be a link above and in the description below if you would like to see the deck tech. Swinging in at the opponent, getting them to 18. We play out another healer. Land and keep cycling. The Boros cycling deck is a really good deck for beginners. It's pretty linear in that you play out efficient creatures that do things when you cycle, and then you just keep cycling the cards. Play out a fox. Get some counters. Gain some life. Now the moment the opponent's staring down a lot of damage with nothing on board. At this point they play a 1/1 Death Touch. Keep cycling. Notice how I should have played the Stinger before cycling the other 2 cards. That way I could have gotten some extra damage in, but in the end it didn't really matter too much. Like that Eternal. It's on 2. Kind of scary. It's a 5/6 with Menace. And they can sacrifice things to draw cards. And they do so. So at this point the board state's getting kind of stalled. We're going to switch our game plan to really just burning them out. Doing 2 damage with each cycle, the damage starts to rack up. Pass the turn over to the opponent. We play Elspeth's Nightmare, destroying one of our damage dealers. At this point with the stalled board, all we can do is just keep cycling, hoping to draw into one of our damage spells. but we're at a very comfortable life total. Get another stinger in play. And pass the turn. Opponent gets to look at our hand, sees that we just have a land. And they're kind of in a bad situation. You notice they consume our giant fox. Getting life back. We can play Luris, which gets us another stinger. At this point, the board is definitely stalled. Exile our graveyard, making any Zenith Flare we draw obsolete. And what seemed like a very easy game in the beginning is now coming to a standstill. They take out Luris instead of one of our damage dealers. And now we hope to just continue cycling the train, doing 3 damage with every cycle. We're not really under any threat. Massacre Girl comes out and pretty much wipes the entire board. At this point, we're in a little bit of trouble, but at the same time, we're at 51 life. So we do all that we can do and keep cycling and hope to really just stick it out. I'm sitting there with a good amount of power on board. And they begin attacking us. Underworld Sentinels beginning to exile creatures from their graveyard. Thankfully we're able to burn them for 8 off our first Zenith Flare due to the graveyard being full from Massacre Girl. And it's only a matter of time before we can hit something that'll do 2 damage. The early game life that we gained really helped us out as being a buffer. You can see there's a lot of turns now where we're just drawing lands and not able to do anything. Raiding Massacre Girl. Very cool creature. Would be a fun commander deck. And we're just kind of waiting for our opponent. Going into this warm-up match before hopping into ranked, I was not expecting it to be swingy and then grindy. Usually these matchups against the black-white decks usually go pretty quick. And this is the first list I've seen run Massacre Girl. And the exiling of our graveyard definitely helped prolong the game for our opponent. Seeing that we were at 51 life earlier, we're now down to 27. You can see just how much pressure they've been able to put on these last few turns. Fortunately, we're able to rip the Zenith Flare off the top and end the game. Moving on to our next little warm-up match. I usually like to keep any hand that has a plains into a fox. Having a tap land on turn 2 isn't the most exciting keepable hand, but the fox usually generates enough aggro that it's worth keeping. Unfortunately, the opponent did have the 1/1 Death Touch lifelink wall, but we will just play around it. Seems like this black-white vampire lifelink style deck is pretty popular when just in the casual play lobby. It's pretty cheap to build, and it's something that you'd run across as a new player quite often. So in this moment, we choose to cast the Go for Blood, trading one of our extra foxes for the blocker, and then being able to swing in for the damage. Now that we have 4 lands in play, everything's kind of worked out in our favor. We can cast any Zenith Flare that we may draw at some point. So now the point is to just cycle our creatures and put some early pressure on the opponent. The Flourishing Fox is a very strong aggro game for this deck. The opponent playing an enchantment that really doesn't do much for them, causing us to lose a couple life and then to gain a couple life if we attack them. Unfortunately for them, our creatures are strong enough that that doesn't really matter. You can see the effect trigger here. We'll lose 2 life, they'll gain 2 life, but then we'll hit them for 10. This is the kind of situation you like to see with this deck. Once they get this low, it doesn't really matter what they do, we can just Zenith Flare whenever we draw it. And we wrap up. So now we're jumping into the ranked queue, playing best of 1, just because that's a good way for beginners to earn some cards and some packs at the end of the season without having to put out for a sideboard. Looking at this hand, we mulligan down, keeping a tapped land and a mountain. We put one of the Go for Bloods at the bottom of the deck, keeping the Zenith Flare as a finisher, as well as 2 Stingers and a Wish Giver to begin the cycle. With no turn 1 play, we play our tap land out and pass over. Seeing the opponent play the Hawk, thinking that they're going to play some sort of mono-white life gain. Play out a Stinger. And while we don't have anything that can really block the Hawk or deal with it, that 1 life gain isn't going to do much when we can start pinging them for a ton of damage every turn. So now we have 2 Zenith Flares in hand. And we're feeling pretty confident. Playing out this Kreen is pretty abnormal for the normal life gain deck, so I'm pretty interested in seeing what they're playing. They add a Plains. And play a healer of my own in order to gain some advantage. Cycle away the other Stinger because it looks like this is going to be a more grindy game. And attack through. Looking at our cards, waiting for the opponent to play. Opponent plays out the Mirror Shield, which some of these lower tiered decks seem to be playing. The 2 mana cost to cycle on the Rescuer is a pretty awkward inclusion at times. But if you do want to go wide, it makes it worth it. But as of right now, it's kind of clogging our hand. Seeing that the opponent keeps just swinging in for their 3 damage lifelink every turn, it's giving us the ability to cycle for the damage from Stinger and then attack in unfazed, putting them at a net negative life loss. So we keep cycling, looking to hit our 4th land so that we can cast that Zenith Flare. We'll let it come and tap, seeing that all the Rescuers that we have in hand cost 2 mana to cycle, so there's no point in taking the 2 damage. Opponent swings in with their flyer. Plays Growth Cycle, buffing it up, getting them 6 life. At this point we go in for the attack, hit him to 11. And we decide to really go wide here. Because the Zenith Flare wouldn't be lethal, the thought process behind it was to play out some attackers so that when they inevitably attack us again, we can swing in for some extra damage and get them into the range where Zenith Flare would kill them. They go back up to 13. We cycle. Go to combat. Swing in. As you can see on the Zenith Flare, it's hitting for 11. It's very handy that it's marked. And we take down the opponent. Gain some ranks in silver and move up. Facing our next opponent here on the best of 1 ladder. Again, we're stuck with a untapped land and a tapped land. With no Fox, we usually just lead on the tri-land. It gives us access to the colors that we need, and doesn't really cost us anything because we're not missing out on any turn 1 plays. Opponent plays an Arboreal Grazer and ramps up. We play out a healer because we want to gain some advantage off of our cycling. Even though healer is not the most exciting play, it's better to have it in hand and gain some life off of our cycles as we try to hit something that'll do more for us. At this point we play out another healer. That way we'll be gaining 2 life off of every cycle. Opponents ramping up on lands. Not sure exactly what their gameplay is yet. We're a little worried because these kind of ramp decks usually end badly. Some sort of game-breaking combo, but when they play out the wolf, we get the feeling that they might be playing something a little bit more janky. So we begin cycling. Seeing that wolf come into play makes us think that they're playing some sort of aggro deck. Another wolf comes out. And at this point it's pretty safe to say that they're playing some sort of wolf tribal. But we're able to land a Rescuer, which helps us clog the board with some tokens, providing some chump block answers while we're gaining some life. Zenith Flare is sitting at 8 right now. And Tolsimir comes out. we see that its ability to cause all the wolves to fight our creatures could be very problematic. And we are very lucky to have some of that incidental life gain from the beginning of the game. We cycle. Cycle again, growing up our Zenith Flare. Drawn to a land, which is one of the more unfortunate things we could play. Play a Lurrus. Play out a Fox as a blocker. And at this point, we're just trying to stall as much as we can. Opponent plays an Incubation Druid and a Paradise Druid, seemingly trying to ramp even more. Chump blocking with the Fox, because Lurrus will let us replay it. And the Fox can eventually, if we get lucky on our cycles, grow big enough to survive any jump blocking. At this point we have 2 Zenith Flares, and we are pretty confident if they aren't able to gain any life, we can seal the match. Opponent also with 1 card in hand, thinking about what they're going to do. We mouse over our Zenith Flare, very giddy in being able to cast it. I think it's very handy that Zenith Flare marks on the card in Arena how many cycling cards are in your graveyard, telling you, just sitting in your hand, how much damage it'll do. One of the beneficial aspects of playing online versus in paper. So we cycle, just because we can, and we kill the opponent. Then we move on to our next game in the best of 1 ranked match. We see a 1 land hand, which is not good. Thinking about what we should be doing. Obvious mulligan into a second mulligan, another mulligan. And at that point, we don't really have much we can do, so we concede. This kind of thing can happen with this Boros deck. We're pretty low on lands because of the raw card advantage that we have. So you do get some matches playing where you get screwed on the opening draws. Would it have been correct to just keep one of those and hope to rip a colored source that we could use? Likely. But I left that footage in just to show that that is one of the weaknesses of this deck. And this will happen. It can be intimidating, especially when you're a new player, learning the deck, just trying to earn some cards on the best of 1 ladder, knowing that there are games you're going to concede and lose some rank on, and you don't get those sideboard best of 3 matches to try to come back. So we go into the next match. We have 2 lands and we're happy. We put a Zenith Flare to the bottom, knowing that we can just cycle later on in the game to hit our other copies. Play out our tap land. At this point we read what this Eye Collector does, because I had never seen this card. And we really hope that when it hits us and exiles things from our library, that we do not lose any of our Zenith Flares. A large portion of your matchups will be won off of simply riding your creatures to the point where you can Zenith Flare and win. Opponent reveals a giant. And we see that we're playing a graveyard-based deck. Opponent begins milling us. We play out a rescuer, hoping to go wide and put some pressure on them. Seeing that the Eye Collector mills both us and the opponent, we can see, especially since they revealed the giant, that they're playing a graveyard strategy. So we need cards in our graveyard, they need cards in their graveyard. We just need to hope that we draw into the Zenith Flares instead of them being dumped into the graveyard. We play a Harpooner. Thankfully, we do not have anything with flying, so its ability doesn't do anything. They mill us again, putting another Cycler into our graveyard, which we are okay with. Instead of being optimal and leaving a cycle for their turn, we simply burn through our deck on our turn, which is not an optimal play. They continue searching through their deck with Adventurous Impulse, looking for creatures and land. Revealing another Eye Collector. And we are nervous about them being able to mill our Zenith Flares. So we have the 4 mana, which is good. So we can draw it and play it if we do get a Zenith Flare. And so we begin to take advantage of our cycling, hoping to hit it. Even just having 1 in hand would make us feel comfortable continuing the match. Opponent plays out another land. We're looking at the things in our graveyard. They play out a mole, which mills them some more. We have nothing to deal with these flyers. But with every trigger, they're putting some more cyclers in our graveyard. So, as long as they don't hit our Zenith Flares, they're actually helping us. So, we go to our turn, keep cycling, hitting them for some damage off our Stinger. Drawing some cards. Not attacking, leaving things up just in case they do get aggressive. You'll find playing this cycling deck that there's a lot of times where we aren't pushing in with any creature other than a fox, if we can get a lot of counters on it. A lot of our creatures are there to either to just gain us life, or to ping the opponent, or to just serve as chump blockers as we wait for Zenith Flare. So the opponent's deciding what they want to do. They continue their aerial assault. Eye Collectors swing in with 2 more triggers. We draw a land for our turn. We're getting too many lands in our hand. And we draw on our Zenith Flare. And because of all the milling they did to us, it just made it more powerful, and we were able to end it right there. So we're climbing up through Silver Tier 1, and we continue on. So we have a pretty good opening hand. We have 3 lands and the 2 colors that we do need. Play out of planes and we pass the turn. We don't cycle anything because getting that extra card is just not going to be helping. We'd rather keep some of our cyclers in hand so that we can get some advantage off of them. We see the opponent play the Goblin Banneret. We know we're likely facing some sort of mono red aggro deck. They burn out our 2-drop and swing in at us for 1. At this point we don't have any creatures. So we cycle and hope for the best. Opponent shocks the fox. And things are looking kind of grim. Even though we're facing just a 1/1, they then play out the Phoenix. Now they're hitting us for 3 damage in our turn, and we're not able to do much. We can draw into a fox, cycle it to try to get it large. We know that Phoenix is going to be attacking us every turn, so we might as well try to get our fox as big as we can. They play a land giving them a 1/1 dwarf miner. They skewer our fox. Swing in at us for another 3 damage. Play a land. Cycle some cards. At this point, in retrospect, mistake not to play Luris, even as a stabilization manner. Playing out the Stinger, we thought maybe we could stabilize and just do some damage, but Luris would have helped us prolong the game even longer with its lifelink, and we just now realized that mousing over it, and it would have also recurred the foxes that were being removed. Instead, we're now presented with a board where we're very behind, and we don't really want to have to jump block with the Stinger. Embercleave comes out, and things are looking very bad for us. Embercleave swings through, kills a blocker, we go to 3, draw into nothing. We concede. There's really nothing we could have done there against that explosive start from mono red. Possibly playing the Luris for that small bit of life gain could have changed something, but it was not very likely. So we pack it up and we go on to the next game. That matchup with the mono red aggro there really shows the kind of thing that you can face on the best of 1 ladder, where you get into these matches that are very hard for your deck. If we were playing on the ranked best of 3 ladder, we could have then sideboarded and had a better game plan for the next game. But we requeue and go in, and it seems like we're facing another red deck. They play out a Gremlin. We begin making tokens. We're happy because they shocked before, and we were just happy enough to get some creature off of this rescuer. So if they did remove the rescuer, at least we got some benefit from it. They play out Krenko. We see that they're likely playing some sort of mono red aggro goblin tribal, and they're going to try to overwhelm us with numbers. In that manner, the rescuer was a very good draw. It helps us build up a more wide board that can block their 1/1s. We choose not to do anything and instead sit back with our blockers. They draw the Heb, which is a very scary thing to run into.
Don't need to worry about that.
We're worried about an Embercleave at some point. These Mono red decks usually run those as a way to end the game very quick. So our goal is to put as much bodies on the board in between them and us as possible. We cycle. Cycle again. Cycle again. Hitting them for some chip damage off of our stinger. It's really important for us to race to getting a Zenith Flare that'll kill them and or help us stabilize. The life gain from the Zenith Flare is really helpful, especially when you're facing these kind of red decks. They finally get the shock and they go for the damage, killing our token maker, and they move in for the aggression. We block to kill Nahem. At this point we're sitting with an open board against a Krenko, which will grow and give them plenty of goblins. And we decided it's probably in our best effort to try to cycle to hit another Zenith Flare as quick as possible. We're at 15, so we don't think they can kill us yet.
Stage is fucking nice. You can literally block everything.
Dude, they love A. What the fuck?
Yeah.
They play a very scary Hellkite. They give it the counter instead of face. We draw into our next Zenith Flare. Swinging damage in our favor. The life gain here really was the make or break. If we weren't giving life off of the Zenith Flare, this match would not have been winnable. They move into attack, making a ton of tokens. Knocking us back to 7. We Zenith Flare him again, and we seal the game. Another victory. And as you can see, moving up, silver tier. And so that brings us to the end of the gameplay footage of this deck on the best of 1 ladder. As you can see, this deck, Boros cycling, has some positives and negatives. It would be nice to be able to have this sideboard, as you can see here. And this is the sideboard that I will be playing on the best of 3 ladder starting this new refresh season. I think getting your feet wet in the best of 1 ladder is very good for beginners. It helps you learn your main deck and play it efficiently, and you don't have to worry about spending wild cards on the sideboard. Now, since we're going to be playing best of 3, we're going to have access to the Graveyard Hate and the Combo Hate through Hushbringer, more board wipes with the Clarions and the Dragonfires, as well as Reptilian Reflection to get us those hasty enchantment creatures for our control matchups. So, in the end, this deck does have a plan when you go into the best of 3. So, we will be doing so, and there will be videos on the channel coming up soon showcasing that. Also coming up are going to be some more decks, including Dimir Flash, as well as the kind of Temur Flash Reclamation deck that's going around, as well as some other brews. I hope you enjoyed watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and leave any suggestions below of any decks that you would like to see. There's not only going to be some Magic Arena footage coming, but also some Magic Online footage for some Legacy and possibly some Modern content and Commander content as well. Thank you for watching. It's been Space Moose here. Enjoy your day.